they'll say, look, I don't want to be the guy that authorized billions of dollars in spending every year for a threat that never happened. Yeah, pandemic may
Welcome to
again,
Politics
maybe
Done
not for
Right.
100 years.
I am your host, Egberto
here's my
Willies.
interview.
This is a
We have
progressive
seen
program
what the
that
cost
will
of
take the
unpreparedness
mystery
has
out
been.
of politics.
We have
This
11
is the program
aircraft
that will
carriers.
encourage you
We
to make
invest
sure
in those
government becomes
at about $17
we
billion
the people.
a pop
Whether
per
you are
We're
liberal,
talking about
progressive,
one aircraft carrier
conservative, or
investment
otherwise,
to make
you get to
America
hear
not only
your
safer,
point of view.
but healthier.
We are an independent media outlet that,
I would
unlike
hope
mainstream media
that
beholden
as
to
a nation,
corporations, we
realize
only
that
owe
we can't
allegiance
do
to
it
you.
this way
Remember,
again.
you can also send me a
This
tweet
is a
at
war.
EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto
Maybe you and I'll be
Willies.
having this
Let us
conversation
engage.
I hope
It
we're
is
not over the
politics
pandemic.
done right.
But if we are,
I can't guarantee it, but I'm nervous about the intensity. of the
Welcome to
divisiveness
Politics
in the
Done
country.
Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Welcome to
President
another
Biden
show,
is
and it
doing a
seems
lot of
like I
things
got
to
a few things
really
started
get
a
science
wee bit
back on
early.
track.
That's done. That's done. How are you guys doing today? Welcome aboard, everybody. I'm kind of late today because, I was on a mission. I went on a mission to recruit people to vote. So I went to the high school, brought a whole lot of, a whole bunch of folks went out there and tried to register people to vote. And that's what we continue to do. We understand that we have a lot of work to do. Anyway, Michael Radnin, welcome aboard. British MCP, welcome aboard. Julie Van Astel, welcome aboard. Let's see, quién más está. Eric Hayes, welcome aboard. Anybody that I missed from the early comers? I don't think I did. Anyhow, Michael Radnin says, prosecutor, you will learn what happened in that 9 minutes and 29 seconds in Chauvin's trial. Derek Chauvin choked George Floyd to death. Our nation is about to be tested. I've been glued as I write, as I walk, as I do anything in front of the TV to see exactly what's been happening in that trial. And the more you watch that, the more you wonder, how can a human being do what he did? Look, Chauvin is a psychopath. And America is going to be tested. America will be tested. They didn't charge this guy with all the right charges. This guy, when you take a look at the close-ups, when you look at what this guy was doing, this was a psychopath enjoying the murder, the assassination of George Floyd. They showed every angle today. This was an assassination. And when this is being broadcast throughout the world, there is no excuse here. If this guy doesn't get guilty on every single item, and he should be charged with more, but if he does not get guilty on every single item, America not only should be ashamed of itself, but America at that point has no right to tell, and already we are short on being able to tell people anything these days, given what our right wing has done by taking away democracy to quite a few people and much more. So already we are on thin ice when it comes to trying to give any kind of suggestion to any country about how great it is to be America, how great we are the wonder of the world. Pat ourselves on the back, While we were sitting down, I was talking to 4 women about our democracy and when I came to this country, what it was like. When I came to this country in 1979, and everybody thought America was a bastion of democracy, America was a bastion of the future, America was the place where you could move things forward, where you could be anything you want to be. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of that still exists in America and many other places. But we came to America, those of us in this hemisphere, this is the place that many of us come to. But. Like I told her, as I came here in 1979, all I have seen is decline. You may ask, but wait, didn't Clinton balance the budget? Yes, he did, but he also oversaw the passage of a crime bill that threw a whole lot of people unjustly in jail for a very long time. Wasn't Obama great because he passed the Affordable Care Act? Yeah, that was great, but it was nothing more than a giveaway to the insurance companies because we didn't kill insurance companies for basic health care, which is something that has to be done if we want to be honest. The only way we can actually have health care for everybody, health care that is not a wealth transfer engine, is to get rid of private health insurance companies for taking care of basic health care. It does not work. It is a mathematical impossibility that they can be more efficient than a single payer system where there's no profit in the paying of the bill. It is a mathematical impossibility. This is not ideology. This is math. And when we talk about, again, our history with Chauvin and what's going on now, we have so much to learn. We have so much to learn. Bridge MCP says, the time was over what people thought it was. Julie Van Ostel, good afternoon from Lakeville, Minnesota. Bridge all. I'm getting the J&J vaccine on Saturday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm happy for you, Julie. Eric Hayes says, look, like $3 trillion has holes taxing the frontline workers per mile plus gas. That was ridiculous. I agree with you, Eric Hayes. We are not going to charge Americans per mile when Americans are driving per mile to make a lot of fat capitalist money. In other words, here is the deal. I want to say this and then we'll get into the program. This is how crooked it is. And how crooked when you have somebody like Buttigieg allow Republican thinking to get into his mind. A lot of people think, okay, let's just, for the people who use the freeway, let's go ahead and charge those people who use the freeway. That would be wonderful. And by the way, so if you're working at home, you don't pay anything to use the freeway. What they forget to tell you is you are using the freeway to go to a job to make a plutocrat a billionaire. In other words, he needs those freeways for you to go to work. He can use his helicopter or whatever. He can stay home. But you have to go into work using the freeways and the highways to save his butt so that he can win millions. So when he says, well, I don't use the freeway, so I shouldn't have to pay, ridiculous. We are using all these utilities, all our commons are being used to enrich a few. So don't let them ever fool you into believing, well, I'm not really using the water systems in America. I have my own private water on my island, so I shouldn't have to pay. BS, the reason you can have that island is that all these other people have water to drink and roads to drive so that they can come work for you and allow you to make a whole lot of money. Again, like I always tell people, we only look at things superficially. We don't look at how millionaires become billionaires. They become billionaires by taking what is ours. Don't ever forget it. They didn't earn it. We gave it to them. Don't ever forget it. Billionaires didn't earn their billions. We gave it to them peacefully. Okay, take our excess labor. It's yours. It's a different way of thinking, but it's the truth. And in my new book, that I'm on page 130 something, I believe. It should have been out 6 months ago, 7 months ago, a year ago, which is How to Make America Utopia. I discuss all of that in there. Okay, let's see. Let's see who else is here. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Eric Hayes, go south. Bridge MCP thought was already have a gas tax for that. Yeah, even the gas tax is regressive, Bridge MCP. I am for getting rid of the gas tax altogether because you're penalizing. Though, look, let me give an example. Let's say I own a skyscraper. I live in the skyscraper. I have everything delivered to me. If I need my groceries, it's delivered to me. If I need to, but a lot of people work for me around this country. They have to buy their own water. They have to drive their own cars. They have to do all of that. So they are paying a tax to use roads to serve me. You get it? So we have to understand the depth of how this thing is. Let's see. My Ashley Willie says, I think calling him a psychopath makes him special or other. Ed, he is an everyman. Many are capable of what he did. Hey, that is so true. Hey, Bridge MCP is saluting you, my daughter Ashley Willis. Thank you for listening in today. Eric Hayes says, para ver, per mile, so the poor and workers are hurt. Ashley says, replying to Bridge MCP, hi, hey. Okay, Michael Rudden said, Egberto, if you're talking about moral ground or imperialist foreign policy has done that a long time ago, though you could argue that 1,000 plus deaths at the hands of police officers every year say the same thing. I agree, brother. I agree. Tom C. How you doing, Tom? Georgia amends voting law to allow people in line to be hydrated with fire hoses. The Onion. You know, you almost got me, Tom. Come on, brother. Don't do that to me. Bridge MCP, you can when Reagan was there. Yes. Eric Hayes, how are we paying for all of this? Eric, how often have you listened to my show? Eric, my brother conservatives. Listen, learn about modern monetary theory. MMT. I'm going to bring on what's her name? Not Elizabeth. Come on, help me out, guys. Who's the woman who does MMT, Modern Monetary Policy, not Jocelyn. Anyway, I'm going to bring her onto our show. The economist, she's one of the better economists in the country. Eric Hayes, it's not Republicans here. It is opposite so-called straight Egberto. No, it is Republican methodology. We can discuss that. We can take a look at the Republican doctrine to see that whatever I say is fact based on the beliefs of the system. Martha Benton, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Eric Hayes, not acting to mitigate global warming will cost a hell of a lot more later. Exactly. Thank you, Varadin, for putting some sense into the discussion. Christine Park, welcome aboard. And won't work later. It now or never. Yeah, well, actually, it works later, but it takes millions of years because of how, in other words, the carbon that we have, there was a time in this atmosphere carbon was huge. It was a lot more. And as we got greenery and so forth, and they absorbed the carbon, they died. They would succumb to the land. They turned into carbon, that, coal. They turned into oil, all of that kind of stuff. But what it did was remove that excess carbon out of the air, and that can happen again. Okay, Bridge MCP says politics and right with Egberto Willis. Why are you in politics or teaching is beyond? Why you are not in politics or teaching is beyond me. Well, that's what I'm doing right now, my dear beautiful Bridge MCP. Come on now, that's what we're doing. Stephanie Kelt, I got the best listeners, man. Stephanie Kelton is her name. I'm trying to get her onto the program. She's a numero uno economist out there. Bridge MCP. Warren, not Warren, but I spoke to Warren as well. Denny says, why did YouTube video not show up until 10 minutes after it started? Me no know, but I tell you what, make sure all of you that are listening on YouTube, set the bell. So there are two ways that you can get and notice when we are going live. Number one, you can if you're on YouTube, make sure to enable notifications. That way, when we go live or when we print a video, you get a notification on your cell phone or you get a notification on your PC if you set it up that way. Alternatively, make sure if you're listening on Facebook Live that you have notifications on when we go live on Facebook as well, which we go at the same time, it'll come up as well. But also, if you are on my mailing list, automatically we have Zap. Zap is a tool. And what Zap does is as soon as we go live, it sends all of you an email. I think right now we're sending 6,000 emails. I don't know how many emails we're sending out. As soon as it goes off, and you can always do it the old-fashioned way, like Michael Rudnan is saying. I set my alarm clock to 3:57. He's on Eastern time. So if you're in Central time, it will be 2:57. Okay, brothers and sisters, what is the show about today? Vamos a ver, de qué vamos a hablar hoy? I got to get to the screen, guys. I've got to get to the screen. But guess where I'm coming? I'm coming to the screen. Maybe I'll get there someday. But I don't have it up. And because I don't have it up, I am delaying. But look, Politics Done Right is my website. Please go there. I just look at the time. Bridge, you're disciplined. You know, you look at time at the right time. All right, let's get busy. The title of the show today is, here we go on the screen, Immigration Farce Debunked. Voter Suppression Slammed. Birx admits Trump admin caused many to die. Our first video today, however, isn't going to cover any of that. I want to play a piece by Tiffany Cross. I love this young lady. And by the way, after I wrote up about her, she saw it and she went ahead and retweeted it. And she brought me a hell of a lot of people who wanted to see the video as well. But check it out and then we'll take it on the other side. I speak a lot about the reasons why we cannot stop having identity politics. We can't allow those who try to use the word identity politics as some sort of a slur, as some sort of a pejorative to take hold. We just can't. Because as long as, like I say on the show all of the times, as long as different identities have different identity-specific issues affecting them, you cannot get away from identity politics. And Meghan McCain tried to do something quite silly on The View recently, and you know who really took a good look at it and actually put it completely into perspective? Tiffany Cross. I love that. It is so important that we get different voices on TV, because it is evident that unless you have different voices, the necessary pushback to keep the entire population educated is not there. Tiffany Cross did a great job in schooling Meghan McCain here. Take a look at this and then we'll take it on the other side.
Have a quick conversation about identity politics. Meghan McCain. McCain decided to chide Senators Tammy Duckworth and Mazie Hirono, who expressed their frustration over the Biden administration's shortage of senior Asian Americans. They initially said they would no longer support many of President Biden's nominees before backing off after receiving assurances from the Biden administration that it would elevate Asian American voices. In response, McCain, whose talent, as far as I can tell, is finding great black hairstylists and benefiting from nepotism, had this to say.
We've only had one Asian American co-host this show. So does that mean that one leaving at some point because there's not enough representation? We're talking about, is identity politics more important than qualifications of a job?
Yes, one of you should definitely lose your job. I'll give you two guesses, but you'll only need one. Meghan happens to be the daughter of the late Republican Senator John McCain, but don't tell anyone because obviously she'd never want to bring that up every 5 minutes in lieu of having actual intellectual exchange.
My father. 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 My father.
But yes, let's talk identity politics. Feminist writer Barbara Smith was among the 3 women who coined the term identity politics, and the original intent of the phrase was articulating black women's struggle at the nexus of race, gender, and class oppressions. But just like with hairstyles, Meghan, we've watched you take it, twist it, braid it, and lock it so it benefits the warped presentation of your own clumsy and ill-informed thoughts. Now, name me any group that does not bring their identity into the ballot box. When MAGA-donning Trump supporters showed up in droves, how often did we hear the term white economic anxiety? And note how white voters are always given cute little nicknames like Joe the Plumber or soccer moms or NASCAR dad. All of that, Meghan, is identity politics. And when it came to every other voting bloc, we were simply identified by our race, as if these cute little colloquialisms couldn't be applicable to the rising majority of America. Now, let's address this preposterous notion that somehow being a woman of color suggests that you aren't qualified. I actually understand why you may feel this way. Perhaps you assume that a person's ethnic identity may afford them some advantage. It's called projection, when one unconsciously ascribes traits that you don't like about yourself and attribute them to someone else. Like, I don't know, if my only talent was who I was related to, I may assume that everyone else had some similar unfair advantage, you know? But try being an ally instead of an adversary, because just so you know, in 2020, over 11 million Asian American Pacific Islanders were eligible voters. And those who did cast ballots played a huge role in electing President Biden. So the same way spoiled little gun-toting faux Christian narcissists get to make demands of their chosen politicians, so too do those of us who helped pave the way for this administration. The latest data we could get our hands on show that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are barely 3% of the broadcast media workforce, yet they are the fastest growing demographic in this country and represent nearly 6% of the population. Everyone deserves to see themselves reflected in this space. And as someone who grew up yearning to see my lived experience reflected back to me, and then had to crawl, claw, and fight at every turn to take up space in broadcast media, I simply ask, how dare you? From now on, I hope you speak less and listen more, and take a little time to enjoy this view.
She hit the nail on the head. As she said, Megan, why not just be an ally? Why not acknowledge that the reason we have identity politics is that at the inception of this country, most people of different types of identities, whether they be women, black people of color, Asians, whatever, there were barriers placed in front of them for success, for equality. That's America's reality that we are still fighting with. Even Megan, as a woman, as identity woman, has suffered the consequences of the genesis of this country. As Tiffany says, why not be an ally? Why not fight for all of us getting what is deservedly ours? All right, folks. Thank you, Bridge MCP, for reminding me. I put this out over the weekend. You know, I saw us approaching 20,000 subscribers, and it was like, wow, I'm going to have to use Canva and make me a sticker. Guess what, folk? We are at over 20,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel. Now, it would be great if some of those would become members. So please, folks, if you are there, consider clicking that join button and becoming members. Of the 20,000 people, we only have just a few of you that decided to click that join button. So please join. We need that to be able to continue doing what we do. And as you can see, we work hard at doing what we do. But anyhow, it's not time for my request yet. It's not time for my request yet. You guys need to help me get to that 100,000 that Michael Rudnan is talking about, because it's harder to get to 100,000 than if I started 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, it was so easy to get new ones. Right now, there's a whole lot of commotion. It's very difficult to get it. And by the way, if you want to know why I was late today by a few minutes trying to get the show together, this is what I was doing, folks. We were at the high school registering people to vote with the League of Women. And you know, like I said, women are going to run the world. So when they called me up and say, hey, Berto, come on out here and help us, I just said, just tell me where I need to be and what I need to do. You guys are in command. And they told me what to do. I got out there, went and started talking to the kids, sitting down, having some little bit of fun with those. Hey, it is fun hanging with those kids. Those 16, 17, 18 years old. We got about 3 or 4 of them to register, which is good because most of the seniors stay home because of the pandemic stuff. But we are doing it. Anyway, let's go ahead and listen to Ali Velshi. And when I come back, I'm going to come back and ask you guys to please subscribe to PDR. Subscribe to PDR. Who run the world? Girls. That's what my daughter just said. Ashley Willies just said, who run the world? Girls. Baby, you're absolutely right. And damn it, you know you run me, so the girls must run the world. Dang. But anyhow, let's get busy, folks. Let's get busy. Here is Ali Velshi. No person can claim to understand what it was like for those who had to live through Jim Crow in the 60s and all that went on before. No one can. But immigrants who have lived through similar indignities share a special passion for democracy, a special resolve to not allow what's occurring right now in America under Republican rule in several states to occur. It is that reason why you see so many fighting so hard to make America aware that this is serious. This isn't just a Republican Democratic thing. This is a thing about the soul of the country and maintaining a democracy, preventing fascism in this country. I mean, Ali Velshi's story, personal story, and his explanation as far as what's going on in with the country, bar none, is the best I've heard today. Check this out.
Democracy is, in fact, under attack. And don't mistake that for hyperbole. The attacks are real. It's not a given that democracy will persist under the weight of this sustained attack. Donald Trump used to lead the charge in dismantling our democratic institutions. But now that he's gone, Republicans in state houses across the country are continuing his dirty work. Last night, Republicans in Georgia passed severe restrictions on voting, reminiscent of the Jim Crow era legislation. What's telling is that Republicans in Georgia wrote the voting rules. They had no problem with the rules that were in place until, of course, Joe Biden, Raphael Warnock, and John Ossoff turned the state blue. The Georgia restrictions are the centerpiece of a national movement among Republican-controlled state legislatures to restrict access to the ballot box. I never thought we'd be living in a United States of America where the basic tenets of democracy are up for debate and are under actual threat. I don't talk a lot about my personal story, but it is one that is centered around a quest for democracy, so this attack hits particularly close to home for me. My great-grandparents left India at the end of the 19th century for better economic prospects in South Africa, but their souls yearned for justice, for equality, and for democracy, none of which existed then for people of color in South Africa. For the next 60 or so years, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents were intimately involved in South Africa's anti-apartheid movement in a quest for democracy. That quest ultimately crushed them economically to the point that in the 1960s, my parents were forced to leave the land of their birth because of the color of their skin. They moved to Kenya, where I was born, but it was a nascent, struggling democracy at the time. Ultimately, they moved to the West, where democratic values were entrenched. My father ran political office, failed, ran again, and won, and broke some barriers along the way. The night he won his election, he still would not have been able to vote in the country of his birth. What a wonder democracy is. I grew up in awe of it, and I thought that democracy only got stronger and better. It never occurred to me that one day, 50 years after my parents first set foot on this continent, I would be staring down very real and very mainstream efforts to dismantle democracy. Because that's what Republicans are doing, attacking democracy, attempting to destroy democracy, and they're doing it with glee. Georgia Republicans want to block Americans from exercising a basic and very hard-earned right. This is not an exaggeration. Let's look inside this ludicrous voter suppression bill that was signed into law today by the governor of Georgia. It makes it a crime to give water and food to voters waiting in line. It allows unlimited challenges to a voter's registration. It requires ID to cast mail-in ballots. It limits the number of ballot drop boxes. It allows the Republican-controlled legislature to effectively take over state elections. It's an atrocity that Republicans have committed and want to continue to commit because they are losing elections. They're not winning in the arena of ideas, and so they're going to stop black and brown and young and poor people from voting in an effort to stay in power. Some still believe this is about voter fraud. It is not. It never, ever was. Georgia's Republican Secretary of State stated clearly and definitively that there were no credible claims of fraud in the 2020 election. But even if you lose your mind and believe the lies about fraud for a minute, we should point out that nothing in the Republicans' voter suppression bill actually combats possible fraud. No water, early poll closures, fewer voting places. How does that prevent fraud? It doesn't. It's democracy itself that is under attack, and you should care. You must care. Every citizen of this great country should care and be outraged and speak out and fight back. Creating impediments to our fellow citizens' ability to vote is the opposite of what this nation stands for, both here and abroad. Immigrants like me looked to America as the place that struggled and fought and shed blood, from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to the suffrage movement and the civil rights movement, to extend the right to vote to everyone and to do so unimpeded. This is not colonial Kenya or South Africa in the middle of the 20th century. This is the United States of America in 2021. This is the bastion of democracy, or at least I thought it was. But even that is not guaranteed. Just because America was founded on democratic values does not mean we will keep them. There are people actively trying to take away your democratic rights, and you cannot expect to keep them if you are not prepared to fight for them.
As an immigrant myself, I understand exactly what he's talking about. But folks, it's important for us to understand this. This is not a black and white thing. This is not a black, people of color, or anything thing. This is a democracy thing. And if you think for right now, where they are carving out sections that they believe don't vote for them, which in general right now is people of color, younger people, college educated, think about when they need to carve you out. This is about democracy. It is about power. It has nothing to do about you. You are just a pawn in the system. What we have to do is stick together and make sure we have a real democracy. One person, one vote. Generally speaking, we have to get this right. We cannot allow these guys to kill democracy. It will hurt more this time, people of color. But the next time, it's not only going to hurt them, it's going to hurt you. Okay, folks, coming up next, we're going to have about the pandemic, and then we're going to have about the immigration truth, the farce that is the immigration stuff that's going on right now. Then we're going to talk about Deborah Birx and the pandemic as well. We have 3 more videos to show you, but beforehand, you know what time it is, folks. If you are on YouTube right now, why don't you click that join button? And just like yesterday, we showed off all those folks that joined yesterday. I'd love to put that little green sticker with your YouTube handle on it. So please go ahead, if you're on YouTube, click that join button. Click that join button on YouTube and become a member. Out of that 20,000 subscribers we have, only a few of you are members. So please go ahead. If you are listening to it, please go ahead and consider being a member. If you don't see that join button, you can also subscribe by clicking on this link, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Be a part of the PDR posse. Bridge MCP designed our new cup, so consider also getting that mug. Here is the mug designed by our leader of the PDR posse, Bridge MCP. There you go with Roberto Lewis bought all 3 of our mugs, and there is a Bridge MCP with the mug. And of course we have, I think, who's the other person that got it? Linda E got our cup as well. And then we had Norman Reynolds with the cup. So consider getting the cup. How do you get that cup? Do you know how you get that cup? You can get that cup by clicking on this link right here. And by the way, we have a lot of other cups as well. So check that out. By the way, though, folks, if you want to find other ways to support us, we can also be supported via our Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Alternatively, you can also support us via PayPal. How do you do that? politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Now, you can get our book. I'm going to put the book on the screen again. That's our new book. Well, it came out in sometime early last year. Late last year. It is It's Worth It. How do you talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors? Folks, we all have to get together. We can't just be thinking about talking to the choir. We have to talk to everybody. If you notice, the one good thing you can say about Politics Done Right, as opposed to some other, let's say, places, we invite everybody in and we treat everybody with respect. We have a lot of conservatives in the room right now, and they all know that they're my buddies as well. Some of them have actually gone out with me to have some coffee. So anyhow, get the book. If you want to get the book, get it at Amazon. How do you get it at Amazon? Here is the link to it. I just placed the link. You should see the link both on YouTube, Facebook, and otherwise. But if you want to cut out the middleman, you can go directly to our store, politicsdoneright.com/store. And guess what? For those people who buy it directly from us, we also send you our bumper sticker. And other than the bumper sticker, I signed the book. So folks, please consider getting it at our store. And I'm done doing all the pushing of our stuff to make sure we stay alive. Just telling you again, please click that join button or go ahead and visit that link, politicsdoneright.com/join. Okay. Linda E was here, I think, late last week. Linda E was with us late last week. All right, folks, here's what I want to do. Al Sharpton did a piece on his gotcha, and I thought it was important because he shows the graph. We have a mainstream media. We have a mainstream media that is terrible and allows the Fox News media to drive the narrative. Anybody looking at the border would say, oh my God, look at what's happening in the border. They're flooding us. We are going crazy. We can't handle all these people. You know, Norman called me up and he said, Egberto, do you realize if we were to bring in, let's say 15, 20,000 people per week for this surge that's occurring, it wouldn't make a dent in our population, and we can actually absorb that amount of people. And it's not even coming close to that kind of numbers. And Norman did the calculations. You know, I'm all about math. That's all I care about, math. And he showed the numbers. I'm like, Norman, I never looked at the numbers, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We don't realize we're a country of 330 million people that's very prosperous in the aggregate, not spread it out, but in the aggregate. We are working, what we are doing together here is working to educate us all so that we make sure that the wealth is distributed more equitably. But it'll take a while. But anyhow, I want you to listen to this piece from Al Sharpton, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I want to talk about the ridiculous assertion spread by Republicans recently that President Biden is somehow responsible for the recent surge of immigrants at the southern border. Biden addressed that absurd claim himself on Thursday.
Well, look, I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. Truth of the matter is, nothing has changed. Does anybody suggest that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy and he was doing good things at the border? That's not the reason they're coming. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat in the desert, number one. Number two, they're coming because of the circumstances in country.
The recent surge is real, but let's be clear. It's part of a normal cycle. Border crossings tend to spike in the early spring because it's the safest time of the year to traverse a desert. Plus, as you can see on this chart, the current numbers are still smaller than the peak under the Trump administration and absolutely dwarfed by those during the George W. Bush administration. And if we have learned anything about immigration throughout the history of the United States, it is that people come to America for as many reasons as there are immigrants. But as the president shared in a personal story about his family's immigrant past, all of them come to this country for a chance at a better life, often because the one they are living is unsustainable and unsafe.
When my great-grandfather got in a coffin ship in the Irish Sea, expectation was he going to live long enough on that ship to get to the United States of America. But they left because of what the Brits have been doing. They were in real trouble. They didn't want to leave, but they had no choice.
And while a lot have changed in the years since the president's great-grandfather fled famine for a better life, so much remains the same. Immigrants from Latin America are also feeling and fleeing the hunger, violence, and upheaval, and some of it caused by American foreign policy in their home countries. Even the starkest humanitarian emergency in today's crisis has precedent in previous immigration peaks. Unaccompanied children and teens pass through Ellis Island by the thousands in the 20th century. Like today's migrants, some were alone because their family members had died on the dangerous journey, and others because their families could afford this chance for only a single travel. And while today's unaccompanied children certainly represent a crisis, that crisis is humanitarian, not criminal. The House of Representatives have passed 2 bills to get started tackling this problem, and the Biden administration has announced executive actions to care for these children in the meantime. But Republicans don't want solutions. They want a scapegoat. The GOP is so mad at the popularity of the president's early agenda that they would rather squawk and scream that the crisis than roll up their sleeves and do something to help. Any common sense reform that could solve this humanitarian disaster would rob them of their cheap racist fear-mongering and cut down on their opportunities for dramatized photo ops at the border. The children and families who come to our borders and our shores seeking the American dream deserve a fair shake at it, just like Joe Biden's ancestors. And who knows, perhaps in a generation or two, we'll have another American president who will share the story of the time their ancestor came to America in 2021 over the racist objections of bad faith actors to build a better life. Real Americans know that immigrants make this country great. I got you.
And immigrants definitely make this country what it is, makes this country better. This new country, that is. But what I always find, the people most objecting to immigration don't seem to know history very well. When the settlers came, and I repeat this ad nauseum, but I have to repeat it anytime I talk about immigration, because anytime somebody pulls one of our video clips that has immigration in it, I want to be a bearer of truth. And remember this, the settlers came here. They stole land, they plundered, they murdered those who helped them survive, they enslaved, they put people into indentured servitudes. Let's talk about the Chinese building, the Pacific Railroad, and more. That is what they did when they came to this land, to the people already here or to the people they brought. Those people that are coming through the southern border, all they want is a job. All they want is somebody or a place where they can live in peace. They're not trying to take away anything from anybody. Many times they're coming to a land that was previously theirs, from ancestral lands. Many times they're simply coming to do a job we need them to do. I've always said it would be nice if we could coordinate all our undocumented workers that are working in the farmlands of Kansas, working in the farmlands of California, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and all these other places, and get them to stop working for 1 month. And you will see what happens to America. Get all the babysitters, all the people taking care of other people's kids and cooking for them and all of that. Just the undocumented ones. I'm not even talking about the documented folk. I'm talking about the undocumented ones. And by the way, they're not only from Mexico or Honduras or Guatemala or El Salvador. They are from Nigeria. They are from all over the world. They are from Canada. But of course, the Canadian ones don't generally have to say much. Let's get honest. We couldn't make it as a country then. It is so important for us to understand the truth. The truth really changes perspective. Sometimes you want people to get a bit of what they're asking for. Like many times I sit back. If I didn't care so much about people, I would sit back. I remember several years ago when Bush 2 came into office, I wrote a blog piece, went viral. I said, let Republicans do everything they want to do to this country. Give them free will. Do not filibuster. Do not do anything. Allow them to run the country the way they speak. If we were ever to do that, we would never have to worry about Republican orthodoxy again. Unfortunately, the humane portion of me said the following. Unfortunately, we can't do that, because it would mean sacrificing too many of our fellow citizens to prove that Republican orthodoxy is a failure. So we couldn't do it. But sometimes, because even many of those who are supporting this particular ideology, it will hurt them the most, humanity says, we just can't let it happen. Anyhow, the pandemic, like I said before, Donald Trump caused the deaths of over 400,000 people. And his Dr. Deborah Birx pretty much confirmed it. Let's go ahead and listen to her, and we'll take it on the other side.
The life-saving and record-breaking vaccines that Dr. Fauci oversaw were a giant success for the doctors, for science, and for the world. But remember, a vaccine does nothing for the patient on the table. In this case, the hundreds of thousands who perished before science could save them.
When you look at your data now and you think, okay, had we mitigated earlier, had we actually paused earlier and actually done it, how much of an impact do you think that would have made?
Well, I look at it this way. The first time we have an excuse, there were about 100,000 deaths that came from that original surge. All of the rest of them, in my mind, could have been mitigated or decreased substantially if we took the lessons we had learned from that moment That's what bothers me every day. And that's why I have to be able to process this and understand this, because like you said, in the post-mortem, we have to come out of this and learn how to do it better the next time.
She's not the only doctor who came later and said that, but that is the antiseptic way of saying we screwed up and people died. And my question is, what penalty should they have to pay? Dr. Birx, you know, she's coming across now that Biden is in power and now that things are working right because we finally are having science-based methodologies to solve this problem. Oh, we the doctors knew better, but it's all Trump's fault. If 100,000 people are dead, we understand we couldn't do much about that. But the other 400,050 people, oh, they didn't have to die. Yeah, but we were telling you that in real time. But you weren't bucking. You didn't. If you guys wanted to be humane, you would have retired. You would have given your resignation, and you guys would have, a whole posse of Trump doctors would have gone out there and says, this guy is crazy. He is killing us. Masks work. It's a science thing. If you filter viruses or you prevent droplets from leaving, you are coming into you, you don't transmit the virus. If you don't transmit the virus, you don't get mutations because there's no transmission to mutate into other bodies. And we could have mitigated this confounded virus here in America like they did in Australia, like they did in New Zealand, like they did in places where people are now going around and they don't even have to wear masks. But we Americans, we constantly head into decline. We constantly go into decline because we choose to be ignorant. It's called willful ignorance. I was speaking to one of our guys on Facebook, and I told him, you know, the problem with willful ignorance is it metastasizes into real ignorance. In other words, you accept fallacies because of choice. Eventually, to you, that fallacy becomes a reality. And that's the problem. And Mr. Eric Hayes, balance is a false premise. You only need balance if you're coming from two different plausible possibilities. However, if you have something that is completely wrong, something that is mathematically wrong, something that is scientifically wrong, there is no balance. It's not one side says this and the other side says that. There is no and that's why when Fox News talk about balance, it makes no sense. There are certain things in life that are black and white. And how do I explain this to many people? I can have an intelligent discussion about whether we have big government or small government, because neither is right or wrong. If you want small government, you also know that people in the commons will suffer. But if you're willing to tolerate that, and if people who are suffering in the commons think it's okay to suffer if they don't have the means to be a part of the society as it stands with unfettered capitalism, etc., small government is okay. However, if you believe like I do in humanity, if you believe like I do in not watching people suffer, if you believe, like I do, that survival of the fittest is a natural selection thing, but humanity is a different thing, we don't have to depend on natural selection, then you need big government, we the people, to solve we the people's problem. Neither one is wrong or right. It's just about what you want to tolerate. It's that simple. But there are certain things that are wrong. The formula for water is H2O, two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen. If somebody comes and tells me the formula for water is O2C or CO2, you're simply wrong. There's not, he says this, he says that. You are simply wrong. And I don't want to talk about it. We should not want to talk about that. And that is what we need to understand when we're talking. Anyhow, let's go ahead and play the last video because we're coming down to the end. This pandemic. A lot of people say, oh, we don't need to spend that money because a pandemic occurs every so often. Okay? Don't let me give you a formula for, you said H2O, balance. Don't let me give you the formula for a hydrocarbon. You'll see a completely different result. Norman, throw out the formula for benzene, or rather, throw out the formula for propane, and then for butane. Let's talk about balance, unbalance, all that kind of stuff. Anyhow, listen to this, guy. Listen to this, folks. This is simple. A lot of people say, why we don't spend a lot of money on pandemics because it may only happen 100 years. Here's the funny thing about it. We've lost trillions of dollars because of this pandemic. If we had invested $50 billion a year, okay, less than that actually, over the different countries, we could mitigate all of this. Thank you, Rednin. Look at what unbalanced look like, buddies. You see a C3H8? Thank you. 11, right? Anyhow, let's go ahead and, why do I have to have such great listeners, man? Jesus, I just have to ask for something and the magic happens. Anyhow, look, let's go ahead and listen to this because we should have invested. We should have invested in preparations. We didn't because of the stupor of, it's not stupor, that's the wrong word. Because of the willful ignorance of those who want to just save the money, give it to the rich instead of investing in the future. But here we go.
People may still say, look, I don't want to be the guy that authorized billions of dollars in spending every year for a threat that never happened. Yeah, a pandemic may come again, but maybe not for 100 years.
And here's my answer to that. We have seen what the cost of unpreparedness has been, right? We have 11 aircraft carriers. We invest in those at about $17 billion a pop to build. We're talking about one aircraft carrier investment to make America not only safer, but healthier.
I would hope that as a nation, we'd realize that we can't do it this way again. This is a war. So if you're going to fight a war, you better start shooting at the enemy instead of at each other.
Maybe you and I will be having this conversation again. I hope we're not over a pandemic. But if we are, do you think things will be different?
I can't guarantee it, but I hope so. I'm nervous about the intensity of the divisiveness in the country right now.
Hey, Doctor, how are you?
President Biden is doing a lot of things to really get science back on track. So I'm looking forward to the next 4 years.
So there you go, folks. There you go. Invest now. I am tired of people telling us things like it'll cost too much. Remember that bridge that fell down on I-35 in Minnesota? Should we have rebuilt that bridge? Or how much did it cost to have it fall, rebuild after it's fallen? And that's what's happening in our infrastructure right now, right? All our bridges are in bad shape. Trucks are going to fall off bridges, break bridges. It's going to kill industry. It's going to kill profits. Now we need to throw $2 trillion into it. People say, oh, that costs too much. But just like what happened in the Suez Canal, right? By not having certain pieces in the Suez Canal, all it took is one ship blocking it. And you see that a little bit of investment could save the day. A little bit of investment could save the day. Thank you for being here, Michael Rudnan. I know you got to take off a little bit early. We'll miss you. I don't have any more research, so no problem. You be safe, brother. You be safe. Anyhow, folks, we got to get out of here. But before I get out of here, I want to do what I always do, and that is to salute all my wonderful people. Michael Rudnan, VQ, welcome aboard. British MCP, welcome aboard. Julie Van Astel, welcome aboard. Eric Hayes, welcome aboard. Let's continue all the way down. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Ashley Willies, my beautiful, beautiful, wonderful daughter, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. Tom C., new member of the PDR Posse, welcome aboard. Coming down. And we have to remember that several of these people that I'm already calling have been members of the PDR Posse. Martha Benton, welcome aboard. Coming down. Christine Park, welcome aboard. Coming down all the way. Deb Denny, welcome aboard. Para ver quién más está aquí. Paul Fleming, ATL. Hey, Paul, you're 19 minutes late, brother. Where were you? You know, we missed you, brother. You know, I'm playing with you. Rachel Port, I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome aboard. Scrolling down. I'm keeping my thing down. I'm coming down. Paul Fleming, I think I called you out. Martha Benton, I think. Courtney, the SLP. What does SLP stand for? More Courtney, the SLP. I don't know what that means, but hey, I called it out. And scrolling down, Ashley, I called Ashley my baby already. Let's see who else is there. Who else is there? Who else is there? Scrolling down. Curtis Jacobs, mi hermano. Welcome aboard. Coming down. Carl Cox. Welcome aboard. And I'm still going down. Still, we have a lot. My eye may have skipped over a few, so forgive me if I did so. And just throw it underneath, and I'll be sure to call you out. I'd like to salute everybody that comments. So Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard. And let's see who else is here. Who else is here? I think I got Deb Denny. My eyes are going blank, guys. No, I'm not getting old. Let's see. Coming down. Tom C. I think I got Tom already. If you want to be called out, throw your name in there. I think I got Julie Van Ostel. Did I? Okay. Yes, I'm glad to see that Ashley came out too. She's working hard. She went to her therapy today and was real tired after the therapy, so I was really happy to see her drop in. Hi, Coop 333. Why are you just coming here, brother? Hi, Coop 333. But anyway, love having you here. Folks, please do remember, support us. If you're on YouTube, click on that join button. Become a part of our PDR posse. See that book on that screen? You can get that book, my book. It's worth it, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. We've got to do that. June Littler, welcome aboard. We need to talk to everybody. So please, go ahead and get my book. It's there if you want to check it out at Amazon, you can get it there. But if you want to go ahead and cut out the middle person, then you can get it directly at our store, which is at politicsandright.com/store, politicsandright.com/store. If you get it at our store, we also include our bumper sticker as well. That you can put the bumper sticker on your glass, not to mess up your finish on your car. And I'll sign the book that I send out. Again, please click the join button. Or if you don't see that join button, just go to politicsandright.com/YouTube, politicsandright.com/YouTube. Look, I know you guys can be anywhere, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. I'm honored by that. So please return. Please tell people about the show. Please share it. Most of our views come after the share. Thank you so kindly. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.